Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Lawcast. This time, we're going back to cover the fall of WCW. We've covered the good times. Now it's time to cover the bad times. It's Bash at the Beach 99, and it's a moment where you had to just look around and wonder how the hell we got here. I just picture Ted Turner walking on the beach like Charlton Heston at the end of the Planet of the Apes, and looking at the poster for this show and screaming, "You maniacs, you blew it up. God damn you all to hell."
And unfortunately, the exact people who blew it up were the ones who made it great in the first place. So the blame goes right where the credit was going. And the saddest part is, all the things that made this a successful company are still here. It's not
They
like
lost everybody. They just have ruined them all.
Yeah, this isn't like when WWE got raided of all their top talent in the mid 90s and they just had nothing but the dregs left. This is still probably one of the most loaded rosters ever assembled by a wrestling company. It's just that everyone's doing something so goddamn stupid.
Yeah. And they've caught some tough breaks. We'll get into like where a bunch of these guys are, but a lot of guys are hurt, or like, Brett is dealing with Owen having died a few months before this. He's not ready to come back and wrestle yet. Goldberg is, off filming a movie because he's starting to get some outside opportunities. They're being stung by their own success, but they've still got a lot of stars here. They just can't seem to use any of them in a way that anyone wants to watch.
Yeah, we're going to get into so much of that. Like, literally everybody on the show is probably doing exactly the opposite of what they should be doing, or is a shadow of who they were formerly. But also, it's just, there's a stunning lack of vision going on here. Like, everybody's doing stuff. Everybody's got a character. Everyone has, like, a 1 month motivation. But there's no sense of, like, who's the next big star? What's the next big storyline? Where are we going to Starrcade? No one has any fucking idea. They're just doing whatever from month to month.
No, I mean, at this point, based on like this, I couldn't tell you one thing that was supposed to happen at Starrcade at this point. I don't think they had any idea, which is a big problem when the show's a couple months away. Your biggest show of the year, and you have no idea what your main event is going to be.
Shit, we're in July. They don't know what's going on in August, much less Halloween Havoc or Starrcade.
Yeah. So we're going to do a lot of like 1 year before this. 'Cause 1 year before this, I'd say, was really the peak of WCW. That's summer of 1998. Bash at the Beach 1998, one of WCW's greatest pay-per-views. The one with Malone and Rodman and DDP and Hogan. They did a monster buy rate, and they were coming off that huge Nitro at the Georgia Dome where Goldberg beat Hogan for the title. They drew 40,000 paying fans. I don't have the rating in front of me, but I think they did like a 6.5 rating or something crazy like that. They were on top of the world the year before this, and they have fallen so far since then. So a few different metrics. Average attendance has gone from over 10,000 the previous July to 5,400 in July 1999. Nitro ratings have gone from a 4.6 average in July 1998 to a 3.5 in July 1999. And this pay-per-view buy rate the previous year was a 1.5 for 600,000 buys, one of the biggest drawing WCW pay-per-views of all time. This year, it's a 0.4, 175,000 buys. Just a remarkable collapse in 1 year.
And it's one of those things where they were too big. Like in 1998, that's not something that you can reasonably compare to any other year. Everybody has their like peak climax. Like averaging 10,000 people per show, and that includes like your smaller house shows, that includes like the nitros in smaller towns and smaller venues. That's outrageous. That's insane.
Even the WWF never sustained that for more than a year or two at a time.
Yeah, that's just nuts. That means like every single time you go to a building, 10,000 people show up. That's outrageous.
They were selling out every single arena they went to. They couldn't find a building big enough.
a 3.5 rating too is still very good. The problem is that since you're going head to head with WWE, and this is literally WWE's best year of its entire existence in terms of growth. I think
TV ratings are absurd in '99. They're doing sixes.
So like in '98, like they grew the total rating to such an extent that there was room for both of them. But at this point, WWE's so on fire that even that isn't enough for WCW to even compete. Like, it's not real, the kind of ratings WWE is getting. But still, that's not going to persist forever. Like, they could have outlasted that. By the time 2000 rolls around, it's not there anymore.
No, even as soon as they moved to TNN, they never quite hit the heights they had the previous time. And then, as we've covered, by 2001, the bottom's fallen out.
That's the nuts thing. It's just how quickly all of this happens. In '98, they're conquering kings, gods among men. In '99, they're on their ass. In 2000, they're jokes. In 2001, they're out of business. If they were still around in 2002, it's a totally different industry.
Yeah, it just feels like if Bischoff could have gotten that TV deal, if Turner had agreed to let them stay on TBS or TNT, they would have ridden out like that really bad time in the early 2000s, and they could have lasted forever because the expectations would have changed so much.
Yeah. And that's not to say they would have been successful. It would have been the same people in charge then that kind of ran this place into the ground here. It's hard to say. It's hard to say how patient any TV company would have been because that was a different environment for wrestling shows at the time. And WWE went through a massive decline, and their viewership dropped out. And it's hard to say that overall wrestling viewership wouldn't have dropped out when that happened. So I'm not sure how WCW would have weathered that. But all of that that's besides the point. The big point is, here in 1999, shit's bad, bro.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the month, they ran the Georgia Dome for a Nitro, basically 1 year to the day of the huge one in '98. This time they drew 25,000 people, about 20,000 paid. Like, those are great numbers for a Nitro, but it's hard not to compare that to 41,000 paid and $1 million gate the year before that, or even at the beginning of '99 for the Finger Poke of Doom Nitro. They drew 39,000 with 35,000 paid. Like, tough not to look at numbers you were doing 6 months ago and wonder, like, what happened and what's gone wrong.
Even though it shouldn't be in any way a fucking mystery about what happened and what went wrong. What went wrong is you blew it. The Finger Poke of Doom explains itself.
And just the thing to point out, any of these numbers would be phenomenal for a wrestling company at any time other than 1999. Like,
oh my god! If AEW did any of these numbers, a fraction of these numbers, they'd be popping champagne and putting hip hop albums out. Like, it's not even fun.
WWE would fucking kill to do a 2.5 right now, or 3.5 right now. It'd kill to do a 2.5. What did Raw do the other week? 1.6 million viewers.
Yes.
Like, I don't know what a ratings point translates to in 1998, but I'm pretty sure 3.5 million, like 3.5 is like over 4 million viewers.
Yeah, WWE now is getting its ass beat by reruns of Guys Grocery Games, so I'm pretty sure that they'd be really excited to do a 3.5.
So, like, the last thing we really covered from this era was Starrcade '99, where Kevin Nash won the WCW title by pinning Goldberg to end his undefeated streak. You know, Scott Hall interfered, zapped Goldberg with a taser, Nash stuck him with the jackknife, pinned him. Couple of things happened right after that. The night after that, on Nitro, Ric Flair challenges Eric Bischoff to a street fight for the presidency of WCW. Flair puts both his career and his personal fortune on the line. This is the promo where he literally, like, strips down to his boxers in the middle of the ring.
Like, you can have it all. You can have everything.
Yeah, he's just like, my, $10,000 Rolex, my $500 alligator skin belt. Like, so it's listing off how much each article of clothing costs. And that was probably a shoot.
Oh, God, I'm sure. I don't think I've ever seen anybody spend as much money on clothes as Ric Flair.
No wonder that guy went broke.
Yeah, multiple times.
Bischoff tried to walk out on the match. The Horsemen forced him to go through with it. Flair won with the figure 4 to become the president of WCW. That begins a slow burn heel turn where Flair gradually goes crazy and comes to believe that he's actually the president of the United States.
Yeah, the Ric Flair that we get on this show, which we're going to talk more about as the show goes on, is wildly crazy. And he's the kind of commissioner who gets actively involved in literally every single match on the show.
I think they could have used a break from a heel authority figure at this point, but they were just trying to copy what the WWF was doing.
And that's not repeatable.
No, they're just let's get our own Vince, but it's going to be Flair. So ironically, this is also what the WWF tries to do a couple years after this when they have Flair.
Yes. They're just oh, Ric Flair, he's the same as Vince. He can do the same shit.
Didn't work that time either.
No. No attempt to recreate Vince has ever worked.
Yeah. Even when it was Vince trying to do it the last 15 times.
Yeah. The only other heel authority figure WWE's ever had that worked to any extent was Bischoff being Bischoff.
Bischoff and Vince are the two guys who have ever pulled this off.
Because it's a shoot. Yeah. You know they're in charge for real and that they're assholes.
Yeah, so January 4th, 99, the infamous finger poke of doom. I don't think we need to relitigate that.
No, there's a whole podcast on that. I believe that's our Starrcade podcast in the archives. You can go and check it out there on our SoundCloud.
The last two things the world needs is more people talking about the finger poke of doom or the Montreal screw job.
But we did both of those. Go check it out.
Sold Out in January was headlined by Goldberg getting revenge on Scott Hall in a taser ladder match.
Sure.
That show did 330,000 buys, down from 380,000 the previous year. Not horrible, a little concerning.
Yeah, 50,000 people were taser on a pole, huh?
Yeah. The next pay-per-view was Super Brawl. Hogan beats Flair in the main event there to retain the WCW title. That show actually did a super buy rate, almost 500,000 buys. That's always been an interesting one to me.
What would you attribute that to? Just a desire for babyface Hogan? Because that's clearly what they attribute it to.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think is the Flair Hogan always draws. And I think there was intrigue by the fact that Flair was turning heel and Hogan was turning face.
This is right around the time, and I believe that you've mentioned this before, but there was a time that babyface Hogan would have been welcome.
Yeah.
People were ready for red and yellow Hogan to come back. And that was clearly shown when he goes to WWE, and that blows the fucking doors off the place.
So Uncensored the next month was once again headlined by Hogan versus Flair. This is the infamous First Blood barbed wire steel cage match. It's where Charles Robinson starts his Lil Nate gimmick. He refuses to stop the match even though Flair is bleeding. Flair cements his heel turn here, and Hogan starts turning face as he hulks up during the match. Flair wins the title, I think by pinfall, even though it's a First Blood match. That show did 325,000 buys, down from 415,000 the previous year. I'd say the check engine light is coming on at this point. This is gonna want to take this thing in and have somebody look at it. It's not running a little rough.
And you can really understand, because they're kind of spinning their wheels with this stuff. It's oh, so they don't like this, huh? Well, this was literally all we had to offer, so...
Spring Stampede 99, a show we covered years ago, way back in the archives, was headlined by a four-way match for the WCW title. Flair defends against Diamond Dallas Page, Sting, and Hogan, with the returning Randy Savage as the referee. DDP wins with the Diamond Cutter to become the WCW champion. Big, nice moment there, well-deserved for Page. And I think, a nice give the baby faces a win once in a while. Would it kill them to do that?
Honestly, it's lovely. It had been so long, seemingly, since like a babyface was actually on top, and that wasn't just like a heel mid-turn or something like that. This is just one of those rare actual feel-good moments during this period in WCW.
That show did 255,000 buys, down from 275,000 the previous year. Yeah, that's okay. Like, we can live with that. Spring Stampede was never a terribly big drawing pay-per-view. It's the same month as WrestleMania. People are spending their money on WrestleMania that month.
Yeah, it's not a ringing endorsement of Page as the champion, but a lot of people probably didn't think he was going to win the belt anyway, so.
So what do? How about immediately turn Page heel?
Like, of all the
Why?
things. All the things.
I like DDP as a heel, but that was not the right time to do it.
Like, they turn him heel. They take the belt off of him literally the next month.
Yeah.
Like, what was the point?
First, on one episode of Nitro, he loses the belt to Sting in the middle of the show, and then in the main event, they do a four-way match with Sting and Nash and Goldberg, and he wins back the title.
They should have just made him like the master of the four-way match, like unbeatable in four ways.
You put four motherfuckers in there, DDP's coming out on top. So Slamboree 99 goes down at the TWA Dome in St. Louis. To put this in context, they'd run the TWA Dome for a Nitro in 98 and drawn 30,000 for a gate of nearly $1 million. This show did 13,000 paid, 20,000 with like heavy ticket giveaways, and a $350,000 gate. That's for a pay-per-view. Just a remarkable decline in less than a year.
The real question to me, I guess, is where are all the fans going? Because is this just like a mass tuning out? Yeah. Or is this just more like fans being like, I don't really want to give them my money right now. I'm just going to mostly check with WWE.
The TV ratings are down, but they're not down by as much. They're not down by as much as we covered. They're down by like a quarter instead of like the gates are like cut in half. Like the buy rates are cut in half.
Yeah. You know how well your product's doing based on how much money people are spending on it. Not how much they're watching it for free.
That's the big thing. Like TNA could always get people to watch their TV show. They could never get people to actually spend money on it.
And that's the whole game. Like, if you're not getting income, you're not a successful promotion. WCW didn't have to worry about that so much because they were owned by a megalith, so it didn't really matter. But, like, in terms of, like, your AEWs or something like that, like, money actually does matter. Like, it matters that you turn a profit.
Yeah. I mean, even at their peak, WCW was never the best at conversion. It always seemed like their gates and their pay-per-views like ran behind their TV, but it was a lot closer a year before this.
Yes, absolutely.
Like the WWF always did a better job of promoting their live events and selling their pay-per-views.
That's because WWE was Barnum and Bailey. It was the circus. Yeah. Like WWE was designed to promote the next show. That was the point of it. Whereas WCW was just a television product that they tried to get you to throw money at from time to time.
Yeah, it's more the equivalent of like American Idol, where they would do their tours, but like the product was the TV show.
Yep.
In the main event, so Slamboree did 195,000 buys, down from 275,000 the previous year. Engine lights back on.
Not good.
Really gonna want to take that thing in. Have somebody take a look under the hood.
Unfortunately, who's looking under the hood at the moment?
Kevin Nash? Kevin Sullivan?
Not the most reliable mechanics in the world.
In the main event, Kevin Nash beat Diamond Dallas Page to win the WCW title after the now babyface Eric Bischoff ordered the match to restart after Randy Savage interfered and attacked Nash. So Nash is back to being the champion. He's back to being a babyface. The NWO is dead. The finger poke of doom amounted to nothing. Nothing at all.
Literally in 6 months, it's gone forever.
Yeah.
I'm really glad we sacrificed everyone's careers for that.
In May, Bret Hart did a promo challenging Hulk Hogan to a match, but almost right afterwards, he went on leave after Owen Hart died at Over the Edge, and he doesn't come back to WCW until the fall. So that is clearly one big thing they were building towards, was they were finally going to do Bret Hart versus Hulk Hogan after many false starts over the years, and they couldn't, turned out the timing didn't work out on it. I mean, do you think that would have been a particularly big match? I've never seen that. Is that big a deal?
I think people would have definitely been interested in it. I think if it was heavily promoted enough, they would at least be like, oh, Bret Hart's wrestling Hulk Hogan? All right, maybe we'll tune into that. But at this point, it's not the significant match that it would have been. Though I'm not really sure at what point in history it would have been, other than like 1993, right?
Yeah. It strikes me as a very a match that would really appeal to internet fans, but not casual fans. Because internet fans would be like, oh yeah, he was supposed to pass the torch to Bret, and then he didn't do it. But that's a lot of backstory that the casual wrestling fan is not going to grasp.
Also, that's a match that would have drawn huge for WWE, but those are both WWE guys. Yeah. And neither one of their backs, it's not that people don't know the backstory of Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan necessarily, but it's just it was always very clear that they meant more, their backstories meant more to WWE fans.
And Bret Hart was really not over in WCW ever.
Why would he have been? He was a broken down, bitter shell of himself.
Randy Savage was Kevin Nash's challenger for the Great American Bash. He's been repackaged here. He's come back. He's got a slick back ponytail. He's probably put on, 25, 30 pounds of muscle. He's got a harem of female valets. He's got Medusa. He's got Gorgeous George, his real life, 21-year-old girlfriend, and Miss Madness, who is Nora Greenwald, a.k.a. Molly Holly.
That is so nuts to me. That was her.
I would love to hear the conversations she would have with Randy Savage backstage.
Just say, as he's trying to, instigate orgies, and she's just like, well, I'm a virgin, so...
yeah.
I'm good.
I think they brought Molly in to train Gorgeous George.
That sounds right.
Yeah. I dig this presentation for Savage. I think he looks awesome. I like the character. I dig he's just going through a midlife crisis and surrounding himself with all these babes.
It's an interesting look. He's kind of doing a Hollywood Savage deal. I get it. It works.
Yeah, and this is something good going on.
And here's the fascinating thing, is that 6 months from now, he doesn't work here anymore.
No.
Not for any reason, aside from the fact that Vince Russo hates anybody over the age of 35. But just for whatever reason, this household name, who still has probably a bunch more years of work left in him, he walks away from wrestling because he doesn't want to do it anymore, not because he can't. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, there's so many, to me, there are so many mysteries around Randy Savage's career. And this is one of them, that he just kind of disappears from WCW. And then he shows up in TNA and does one match. And that's it. And then he's just he does a rap album where he challenges Hulk Hogan to a fight. And then he's just
Hulk.
And then he's just never heard from again. And then he dies really suddenly.
And the thing in TNA was he literally came and did it, and he wasn't really in shape for it yet, so he wanted to go get in shape. But then he got so pissed off with how carny they were that he just bailed.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of echoes the way he left the WWF, that they just kind of stopped using him. Depends who you believe. Either they didn't want to use him anymore, or he didn't want to be a wrestler anymore. But I've always questioned that he didn't want to wrestle anymore explanation, because he goes to WCW and works another 5 years after that.
Exactly, and does some of the best and most inspired work of his career. Yeah. He seems to be really interested in putting over the next generation. That's really what his focus is. This is exactly who you should have. This is the one household name that will do jobs for you.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
Yeah. Why isn't he putting over Booker T, Chris Benoit, Goldberg, everybody you got?
Like, he can actually keep, and he's one of these old guys where, like, he's not himself anymore. He's not as limber as he once was. He's like jacked out of his mind. But he can keep up with the Chris Benoits of the world a lot better than like Hogan and Flair can at this point.
Yeah. So one thing that happened on the Go Home Nitro, Savage's the storyline is he's on the outs with Gorgeous George and he shoved her to the ground. That was not supposed to happen and got a lot of heat with Turner standards and practices for, I think, very understandable reasons. Like there's just this line in wrestling. Like, violence against women is one thing, but like a portrayal of domestic violence is a different thing.
Especially since wrestling has been notorious for its entire existence for these motherfuckers beating their wives.
Yeah.
And guess what? I don't know that Randy Savage domestically abused Gorgeous George, but yeah, he probably
be the most
did.
Shocking thing in the world.
He definitely did Elizabeth.
So that may have contributed to his departure from the company. Not 100% sure, but they still put the world title on him here.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is you can
for one day, he's just keeping it warm so Hulk can beat him for it again.
That's such an embarrassment.
This is the second time in 2 years he's won the title and lost it to Hogan the next day.
No wonder he like dies angry at Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, exactly. All of his title reigns were ended by Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair.
Every time somebody comes like to Hogan, it's just like, all right, Bischoff, I really want the belt on me, brother. I feel like it's been too long. But Hulk, it's on Kevin Nash, and he won't do a job to you. How do we figure this out? Call Randy, brother. He always does the job.
Yeah. Just like, let's get the belt back on me. What if it was Savage who put me over for it? That could be good.
No, but Kevin said that he'd do the job. Like, no, I want Savage to do it. Make him win the belt so he can lose it to me.
Nash retained the title at the Great American Bash with a DQ victory after Sid showed up and powerbombed him. So they've played the Sid card. They've brought Sid back. I guess it's been long enough since he almost killed Arn Anderson that the heat is gone there.
And the funniest thing is that it hasn't been that long since Sid was on television, but in wrestling years,
wrestling has changed so much in the interim.
It feels like a different universe.
Yeah.
And yet, one law above all others remains consistent in all of wrestling history. Sid gets over.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people were into Sid versus Nash here.
That's a cool matchup. They're both huge. They're both power bombing motherfuckers.
That show did 185,000 buys, which is down from 300,000 the previous year.
Not great.
Big trouble. Sable showed up on the June 14th episode of Nitro. She was just sitting in the front row. They didn't acknowledge her as Sable or Rena Miro, but like the camera shows her and they do like what's she do? You know who that is. What's she doing here? Nothing comes of this.
Wouldn't it have been so good for them if they could have made that work?
Yeah.
Like, they just needed a win so bad, just to get anybody.
She was gone from the WWF at this point. She was probably still under like a non-compete, but those don't last that long. So yeah, it's unclear to me why they were never able to bring her in.
I would have given her just $250,000 just to come on screen and bury WWE and say that Vince McMahon sexually harassed her. Just like, air it out, honey.
That would be worth it.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah. Also going on, the infamous Hummer storyline.
Yes. What's the Hummer storyline, Steve?
Well, it wasn't supposed to be anything originally, I don't think. It was just like Nash was baited into a limo by all of Savage's women, you know.
Sure.
Big sexy. And then he gets in the limo and it's smashed by a Hummer. And we don't see who the driver is, but it seems like easy to assume it's Savage. But they never reveal who it is. And then it just becomes this mystery that Savage like says he's going to reveal who the limo driver was or who drove the Hummer, but he never does. Like when Sid shows up, you would assume he was the Hummer driver, but he's not. And they never get around to revealing who the Hummer driver was. Savage leaves, and Nash loses a retirement match, but somehow they morph the Hummer storyline into Lex Luger accusing Hogan of being the driver, because Hogan also owns a Hummer. The difference is the one that Hogan owns, that they show pictures of him in, is a different color. It's a white Hummer instead of a black Hummer, leading, I believe, them to reshoot the Hummer angle with a different colored Hummer for some reason.
Which, like, you wouldn't need to worry about the color. Just look for the one with, like, the bashed in front for where he drove it into a limo or whatever.
They never pay off that storyline because Russo comes in and they just kind of drop everything when he comes in. So they drop this. And then, like, a year later, they heavily imply that it's either Bischoff or Kidman during the, like, New Blood Millionaires Club thing, but they never come out and say it.
Here's my favorite thing about that, is that Kevin Nash is currently the booker of this program. Yeah. The reason for that is because everyone else just kind of left, and he was still there. And he was like, well, I guess I'll take the extra money and just turn in the scripts, I guess. All right.
Not with the headache. Whatever they were paying it for it.
And Kevin Nash has made it very clear through multiple shoot interviews that his whole goal was just to keep it stable enough to keep the checks coming in. Like, he was not trying to do anything ambitious. He was just trying to get through every week and get a fucking television show on the screen. So that's what this becomes. It's just like, well, we got a mystery, huh? Well, let's just drag that out for 9 months and see how much we can get out of it.
Yeah,
I don't want to come up with more ideas.
Inspired by the WWF has just done the Greater Power, which, you know, did good ratings, got a lot of interest. They didn't pay it off well, but I think that's the inspiration. Is they're just like, let's do a mystery. Like, we need to be more like the WWF. And they've had success with mysteries. You know, who is the third man? Who's the next person to join the NWO? Whose side is Sting on? Like, they've had success with that sort of thing before. This does not end up being an example of that.
So they've also failed hugely with the Black Scorpion and things like that. Like, the problem is that you need to know the answer before you start. And if you don't, then you're fucking it up.
So the main event here will be Sting and Kevin Nash teaming up against Randy Savage and Sid. Whoever scores the fall wins the WCW title, including Sting. I mean, it's silly, but, like, it's not that... The WWF was doing this kind of stuff at this point, too.
Yeah, Sting can beat his partner for the title by pinning someone else. God. That's where we're at.
I think he can pin Nash, too, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yes. Shivani specifically says that at some point in the match, Sting could just tap out his own partner to win. God. But I'm not clear. Okay, here's the thing. This is a tag team match. So I think that means that in the middle of this tag team match, Sting could tap out Kevin to win the belt, but that wouldn't end the match. Because he would win the title, but not this match, because it's a tag match.
Yeah. This gets to, like, one of my fundamental things. You have a thin roster. Why are you doing a tag match instead of two singles matches? Why not just do Savage versus Nash again and Sting versus Sid, or Nash versus Sid and Sting versus Sav? Like, just come up with two singles matches out of this,
or put him with somebody else on this card. Like, when we go through who's on this card, you're gonna
parade of jabronis.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, World Class Championship Wrestling had the Parade of Champions. This is the Parade of Jabronis.
And literally, there's a match in this with like 25 guys in it for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk about that.
A lot of key players missing tonight. Hogan is out with a knee injury. He's coming back the next night. Hart is, home being with his family after his brothers died. Goldberg is off filming a movie. Scott Hall has a foot injury, question mark, might be in rehab.
Probably in rehab.
Flair doesn't wrestle just because he's he's all over the show as the authority figure.
So he's in every segment, so he doesn't really need to.
The sub-main event is Roddy Piper versus Buff Bagwell
In a boxing match.
Why is Roddy Piper so obsessed with boxing?
He just really likes it. Not only does he like fake boxing matches, in all of his movies, he just has a prolonged boxing match. He just loves punching stuff.
Really not much else of any significance. Like, it's just amazing how hollowed out this company feels.
It's a joke. Like, there's just not really any other way to say it. Like, this is a funny collection of stuff. But, like, there still is good talent. As we go through, every match has somebody in it that you could be doing something with. I just don't think any of these matches would you choose to be doing this thing.
So to get into the show, it's Sunday, July 11th, 1999. We're at the National Car Rental Center in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That is different. Bash at the Beach was usually in Daytona, I think.
Yeah, Fort Lauderdale must be cheaper.
Yeah. Buy rate is a 0.4 for 175,000 buys. That is down catastrophically from the 1.5 and 600,000 buys they had done the previous year. Of course, previous year they had Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone right after the NBA Finals. So tough to compare to that.
And the hottest thing in the industry, with Goldberg at his peak. Like, that's just a bigger show.
On commentary, we've got the team of Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan, both pretty stale at this point, I would say.
And their Hawaiian shirts, they are both deep into their who gives a fuck period, where it's just like, oh, I guess this rule changed. Well, that's weird. All right.
Mike Tenay is on location in the junkyard. We'll get to that later.
He's on location in the junkyard.
Schiavone and Heenan welcome us to the show. We then go to Scheme Gene, who teases a big surprise tonight. You won't believe who's backstage tonight. That does not pay off, unless I'm forgetting something.
I think that was supposed to be the Public Enemy.
Yeah.
But they weren't even backstage. They were at the junkyard. But, okay.
They are at the junkyard.
Here's the saddest thing, and here's how you can tell. Like, this is the rats off the ship moment, right? Because Mean Gene knows where the wind is blowing. And he says very specifically, like, you can learn, if you call the number, you can learn all about what's going on in WCW and in the rest of the wrestling world, too. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Guess WCW's not really selling that phone number anymore, huh? Gotta pretend you got WWE news, too.
We then go to Mike Tenay, who is on location in the junkyard, where later tonight we will see the Hardcore Invitational.
And what we see is this Roman gladiator arena built out of old scrapped cars.
Yeah.
And poor little Mike Tenay in his little Hawaiian shirt. I'm pretty sure he didn't know he'd be doing this assignment and not actual commentary when he came to work that day.
You know, he seems like a good sport, though.
Yeah, fuck it. But, like, the actual commentary could have used him. Because during this period, he's the only one who cares about the shows.
Schiavone and Heenan, not a great team at this point. Like, Heenan doesn't give a flying fuck. And, like, Schiavone really doesn't either. And, like, they just have trouble filling the air between the two of them, I feel like.
There's a point in this show where Heenan gets so disinterested in the show that he just starts, like, rambling about something different, and then he stops himself and is like, well, let me be professional and talk about the match.
Opening match is The Cat versus Disco Inferno. there's a lot on the line here. The winner will no longer be allowed to dance.
Now, in theory, that's a really stupid gimmick match. But in theory, that would be emotionally devastating to these two people. The problem is, as the cat is walking out, Tony Schiavone says, "Oh, actually, it looks like this isn't actually going to be to see if they who's can't dance anymore or not." Okay, well,
stakes were just too high.
They didn't even like at the end try to be like, well, he refuses to acknowledge that and he's gonna dance anyway. No. Tony Schiavone tells you before the match even begins that there are no stakes in this match. So there's no point to having it.
So instead we just have to watch the Cat and Disco Inferno wrestle for 8 minutes.
At first they do a dance contest.
Yes. The Cat comes out. He unfortunately doesn't have the Somebody Call My Mama music yet.
He does not.
He does do his pre-match promo where he says somebody needs to call his mama because he's about to whoop somebody, and then he puts on his red shoes and dances. He's a great dancer.
He's a very great dancer. He's not a great promo, but he's a very great dancer.
I like the Cat. I've got a soft spot for the Cat.
I'm glad somebody does, Steve.
Eric Bischoff loved him. He taught his kids karate.
That's a good point. There's something there. It's just charisma. Yeah, they just never get it out of him in the right way, I guess. Is this the right way to put it? Like, I've never been interested in what the Cat was actually doing. He just seemed like an interesting potential thing, you know?
Probably would have been better as a manager than a wrestler.
Probably. Just
he
like
never got it in the ring, I don't think.
Just like kind of a dickhead who would like do some like jumping kicks to like help his person win every once in a while. That would work.
Yeah, they do a dance off. These are two fun characters, but like this premise cannot sustain itself for very long.
By the way,
not a lot of stake to go with the sizzle here.
I just want to point out that Garrett Bischoff should have had Ernest the Cat Miller as his manager in TNA.
Yes.
My karate master.
Sensei Cat.
Okay, but yes, as you were saying, this match dumb as hell. Why anyone would want to watch this for even 30 seconds, I can't possibly imagine. Disco Inferno as like a flat, one-dimensional dancing babyface is maybe the most stale thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, Disco's another character I have a soft spot for. I just spent so much time watching him on WCW Saturday Night as a kid.
Like, I don't mind Disco, and Disco had some really good moments throughout his run. And they're going to, when Russo comes in, he's going to try to freshen him up. He's going to put him with, like, the filthy
like
animals.
The entire show around him.
Yeah, which is a total disaster because he's not that talented, honestly.
Yeah. At best, he's the honky-tonk man. Like, on his best day, he's a chicken shit champion.
But, like, you could have, like, moved him away from the disco thing and given him, like, his kind of Berlin change, right?
Yeah, I don't think I would have done that.
I don't know. Yeah, you're probably right.
What is there without the dancing here?
It's a good point. I'm amazed he didn't, like, get put into, like, the FBI at some point. Something like that.
Didn't he owe them money or something?
I mean, that makes sense. But, I mean, like, he should have been, like, the Don of the FBI, right?
The Cat wins in 8 minutes after he hits Disco with his dancing shoe. And, of course, they waived the stipulation that the loser could not dance. So, justice is restored.
There are no changes to the universe after this match. It just 8 minutes of your life drifted by.
Back at the WCW.com location, Mark Madden gets a word with Judge Mills Lane, who will be the referee for the Roddy Piper versus Buff Bagwell boxing match later on tonight. So let's explain who Mills Lane is to our younger fans.
Hell yeah.
Mills Lane is a well-known boxing referee. Also a judge, legit shoot judge in Nevada. Elected judge who also refereed, like was a top boxing referee and became, famous because he was the referee for the second Tyson Holyfield fight, the one with the ear bite in. That was 2 years before this. And I think after that was when he got his syndicated, like, Judge Judy TV show where he would, adjudicate small claims cases.
Yeah, what basically happened was he was part of that, and in the run up to that fight, like there was a lot of just like interest about him because he
Yeah.
was like this like hard ass, like you're not gonna do any bullshit while I'm in the
Yeah.
ring
Like,
kind of
how
guy.
is he going to control these guys? Can he really control Mike Tyson? Yeah.
He had like a catchphrase,
Let's
like
get it on.
let's get it on.
It's
And
great
like
boxing. That's great for boxing. I love that.
I say, he's like the first boxing referee who ever kind of like carved
Yeah.
out his own niche. Like it was good. And like he had been legendary for so long. And so yeah. And then what happened was I don't know when exactly like the claymation, what was it
Celebrity
called?
Deathmatch is 98.
Yeah, okay.
Steve
So
Boston's on Celebrity Deathmatch too.
so Celebrity Deathmatch comes out and that's a gigantic
Yeah,
hit for MTV.
guys, I can't put over enough how big Celebrity Deathmatch was.
Like I would literally it was all I would talk about on the bus the next day. Like it was the only
On
thing that mattered.
Thursday nights, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's just like, look, I can't. The best night possible. Your friends are coming over. You got some sodas. You got a pizza. You got a Nintendo 64, and you're gonna watch Celebrity Deathmatch.
And
Like,
that's just how it was, man.
unfortunately, your life is never gonna get better than that because you're gonna grow up and have to get a job and pay bills and everything.
Yeah, so he was the referee on that. So he was like the troubleshooting referee. He just became synonymous with like a badass troubleshooting referee. And so his Judge show gets syndicated and it's very popular in the vein of Judge Judy. Like I think he had the second one in that vein because Judge Judy had been on for
Yeah,
ages.
Judge Judy was the original.
So he's everywhere. So getting him here is actually legitimate.
It's a good get. This is only 2 years after the Tyson Holyfield fight, and Celebrity Deathmatch is still going. It's still hot at this point.
It would have been better if you would had like Piper fight Rodman like the year before and then get Mills Lane, like something that gets you like some media attention.
It's a little surprising. I mean, I guess the WWF, he did one little appearance in the WWF where he was just like on the Titantron to like declare that like Austin's contract he had gotten from Shane McMahon actually did guarantee him a title match, but a little surprised he never did more in the WWF.
He just seemed like somebody who liked theatrical stuff like that, so there was definitely room for him in that world. But I guess Vince is like, hey, if I'm going to have a famous referee, I'll just make a famous referee. I employ Earl Hebner for a reason.
Yeah. Heenan cracked me up here. He's talking about the Tyson Holyfield fight, and he's like, you know why they let that fight go on? Because he asked Holyfield if he could keep fighting, and all Holyfield said was, huh?
Even a checked out Bobby Heenan, even a broken clock that's Bobby Heenan will be awesome twice a day.
Yeah, that just cracked me up.
Also, before we get out of this segment, Mark Madden, huge asshole, enemy of the Lawcast.
Most famous Twitter feud you've ever had.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, it actually is.
Until we get Jim Cornette to respond to us. I'll say, we don't go picking fights on Twitter.
No.
Not our style.
That's not my thing. I didn't really think that it would be controversial to say that Mark Madden was a huge piece of shit, but apparently he didn't like that.
Yeah, but vanity searches himself.
Oh, big time. Big time.
We get a recap of Ric Flair decreeing that hardcore wrestling is banned from WCW arenas. Thus, we get the Junkyard match.
What a fascinating idea that is. It's just that Ric Flair hates hardcore wrestling so much that he bans it, not from being on WCW television.
Just from the arena.
From being in his presence.
Besmirching the WCW ring.
But, like, that kind of makes sense. Like, if you're going to do, like, the Bill Watts thing, where you're going to, like, take it back to the old school, Flair's the guy who on TV could, like, make that happen, right?
Next up, we've got a world television title match that probably plays on repeat in the TV screens in hell. It's Rick Steiner versus Van Hammer.
Okay. Van Hammer, who you would be forgiven for not remembering still worked here, because he's been getting paid since like 1994 when they first tried to push him.
I feel like they're always portraying him as like a young guy. He's been with the company 6 goddamn years.
Yeah. He was like a hot up-and-comer before Hogan got there.
If I understood the package, he just walked into Flair's office and asked for a title shot, and they gave him one.
Okay, here's what happened. Is that he had been like a peace-loving hippie, and that didn't get over because, sure. So the week before, Hugh Morris had been like yelling at Flair because Flair said no more hardcore matches. So Van Hammer beat up Hugh Morris for Flair. So as cashing in the favor, he asked for a title match. And
this was not a reward. Get your ass whooped by Rick Steiner.
The punishment was, yeah, man, you want a title match, go fight Steiner.
Steiner stiffs the fuck. Like, I feel like this just became Rick Steiner's thing at this point, that he shot on people and didn't sell.
Which is fine. I feel like he holds his television title for like 5 years.
What has become of the TV title? Like, the year before this, Chris Benoit and Booker T are like changing American professional wrestling with the matches they're having, and now it's on Rick Steiner.
It's basically retired. What's become of Rick Steiner? Like, he's not that old at this point, is he?
No, but he seems a million years old.
So he's 59 now.
So he's 38 here. He's like right in his prime.
Yeah, so you would, but they're treating him like he's 45.
Yeah.
Like, he's not doing shit.
No, and Scott has just blown, although Scott is mysteriously not booked tonight.
Yeah, that's weird.
If you want to talk about who they should be pushing Scott Steiner. Like, that should be the guy. He's got it all at this point. He's got the physique. He's got the promos and the attitude. He can still work. Like, that's your man, is Scott Steiner. The big bad booty daddy.
And he scares people enough that they'll do jobs to him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're not gonna. Yeah, just put him in the ring with Scott. Yeah, we'll do a DQ. Scott's gonna stretch him.
Yep. Oh, you're gonna do a DQ, are
you? Steiner wins in 3 minutes. He kicks Van Hammer right in the nuts, right in front of the referee, and it's not a DQ. And then he hits him with the Steiner Bulldog.
They are so lazy about enforcing rules in this company, and we're gonna get into that later on another match, but
how disgusted would Bill Watts be watching this?
Literally, the replay, the ref is staring directly at Steiner's foot as it, like, field goal kicks him right in the nuts.
Buries the referee.
The ref doesn't even blink. He's just like, yep, that's legal. That was a thigh kick. Everyone saw it.
Mike Tenay gives us another update on the hardcore match, and then we've got our United States Championship match. This is a title with a proud lineage. You know, Ric Flair was the U.S. champion, Goldberg, Sting, a lot of great legends over the years. And here in the summer of 1999, we've got a young man with a great championship lineage and a bright future. It's David Flair is the United States champion.
How much would you give for David Flair not to suck?
Wrestling was just, clearly he gave it a shot. It was just not, it was just not his thing. Just didn't,
Everything about him screams not a pro wrestler. He doesn't have the builds. Like, his face gets all flushed when he gets excited. Like,
he's like he's a decent looking guy, but like he's not super handsome like his dad was.
He's super awkward and uncomfortable on camera. He's really awkward in his movements because was trained in the power plant and they train people poorly in the power plant. Like, everything about him is bad.
Do you want to guess how old he is here?
28?
20. He's 41 now.
What?
He's like younger than Randy Orton.
That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, how old is... you think about it, like, yeah, Ric Flair's old, but like, these kids, I think, are from like his second marriage. Like, how old is Charlotte? Charlotte's like 30.
Yeah, I don't think she's even 30 yet. So yeah, and Reed was, I think,
Charlotte's
30.
34, actually. She's a little older than I thought she was.
That makes sense. But like
Yeah,
Reed was like
Reed
30 when he died.
Was he even 30?
He's pretty young.
Yeah. I mean, Charlotte got the rest. Reed was 25. Yeah, because Reed was 25 when he died. Because he's in WCW like this year when he's like 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the tragedy is that Reed and Charlotte got all the wrestling genes.
Yeah.
So if one of them could have been the one who came out now, because like this spot is a dream spot. Because
Charlotte's 13 at this point.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah. I just mean like if Reed had been the one who came out first, not David.
Yeah.
Because Reed had talent and charisma.
And then Flair's got another kid, a daughter, who's married to Conrad Thompson and has no interest at all in wrestling.
That's the smartest one of the group.
Yeah.
It's just, David sucks. But if somebody good got the level of exposure and airtime and push, and he's basically, the whole Four Horsemen exist as a vehicle to push him.
You imagine if this was Randy Orton?
Exactly.
This was Roman Reigns or, The Rock or a good good multiple generation star. There's plenty of them.
A lot of those guys could have wound up in WCW, and it just by chance they didn't. And instead it's David Flair. And David Flair, it's not fair to say that he sucks because he's just not a pro wrestler. He's just 20. A guy.
How many 20-year-old pro wrestlers are on national TV?
I mean, Rene Dupree, and that's it, right?
Yeah, it's a short list.
Yeah.
So the way this happened, Flair won he was just awarded the title because Scott Steiner was stripped of it. So, I mean, both the storyline and the reality are nepotism. Like, obviously, David Flair only has a job because he's Ric Flair's son, but that's also the storyline. Malenko complained to Flair that old guys like Flair and Piper were monopolizing the show, and he formed a group with Benoit and Saturn that will later be known as the Revolution. Malenko is pushing 40 here, so he's kind of an odd choice to be portrayed as like a young up-and-comer.
Yeah, that's the ironic thing. Is like Flair's old, but like Malenko's an old ass man
only
too.
A little bit younger than. Well, he's only. I need to do an age check on everybody here. Flair, born 49, so Flair is 50 here. Flair is old. How old is Piper? Is Piper like 48 maybe?
Probably.
Piper only 45. Piper's not ancient here. But he's been wrestling forever. I mean, he's been a star since like 1980.
Yeah.
So he's old. I mean, that is the difference. Is like Malenko didn't appear on American wrestling screens until like 1995. So he seems young in some sense. He doesn't look young though.
Yeah, Malenko's the same age at this point as like Rick Steiner, and Rick Steiner feels like he's 10 years older.
Yeah, because Rick Steiner's been on TV since 1987.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's how age really works in wrestling. Like, AJ Styles still seems young, both because he looks good and because he hasn't been, he's only been in WWE for a couple years. Like, what really matters is how long you've been on our TV screens.
Yeah, whereas it feels like Randy Orton should be 40, but he's still only like 35 or whatever.
I think he finally is 40.
Probably.
I mean, he's been in the company for 18 years.
Yeah, I'm sure that he's 40, but like
he's
it feels
right
like
about, he's right about. He might be 41.
Say if he had a kid when he started in WWE, that kid could debut now, and they could be a tag team, and Randy would look younger than his kid.
He just turned 40 back in April.
That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, he's been around. I mean, again, he debuted in 2002. He's been on our TV screens for 18 years. Yeah, a kid who was born the day Randy Orton debuted is an adult and old enough to serve in the military.
Sweet Jesus.
Yeah. So Flair is accompanied by Torrie Wilson, who recently spent 72 hours with Kevin Nash as a result of some stipulation. I love how much Nash is just booking himself to be the biggest stud on the planet here.
Literally. The announcers are like, yep, well, Tori had to spend 72 hours with Kevin Nash, and see, sure seems like she enjoyed that experience. I guarantee you Kevin Nash is in the back on a headset like, tell them that Tori really liked fucking me. Tell them.
Malenko beats Flair's ass, goes to put him in the Texas Cloverleaf. Arn Anderson interferes and takes out the referee. Asia, who is a female bodybuilder and an obvious, rip-off of China.
What? She's nothing like China, Steve.
And you just know somebody would claim, oh, we didn't watch the WWF at this time.
No, we just coincidentally named her Asia with a Y in the middle, like China.
Malenko puts her in the Cloverleaf.
Sure. He goes to punch her and just like, nope, can't hit a woman, but I'll put this bitch in the Cloverleaf. Okay.
For a company that's not supposed to do violence against women, there sure is a lot of it on this show.
There's a ton of it.
Ric Flair blasts Malenko with the title belt, and Lil Nate runs in to count the pin, and David Flair retains in 3 minutes.
The idea of Ric Flair having his own personal referee who hero worships him is a very underrated thing. I love Lil Nate. I love the idea of that.
The storyline continues for 15 years. Lil Nate.
It's a shoot.
Bailed out Charlotte in 2016 in a match.
Yeah. It's because it's real. He did hero worship Flair. He was his driver. That's how that went.
Next up, we've got the West Texas Rednecks versus the No Limit Soldiers. We're going to talk for an hour about this if we're not careful. So the West Texas Rednecks are Kurt Hennig, Bobby Duncombe Jr., Barry Windham, and Kendall Windham. Kurt Hennig is from that great southern state of Minnesota. But he's a redneck is the thing. He is.
Say, which part of West Texas is Minnesota in?
From western Minnesota.
And the premise of all of this is, okay, so Eric Bischoff, in one of his grand schemes to get mainstream acceptance, has gone out and acquired, through an outrageous sum of money, he got himself a rapper. Clearly somebody in the Turner office is like, you need to appeal to black audiences more. Yeah. Your audience is 99.9% white and Southern. What if you
could
did this
push Booker T to do that? Or
let's go spend $250,000 getting Master P to make appearances on our show. He does not wrestle.
2 or 3 of them.
Yes. Now, at this point, Master P is a gigantic deal, especially in Atlanta, where he's the king of the South at this point. Yeah. I don't know how much our podcast crosses over with amateur hip-hop historians, but I am one, so if that helps. So, the title of King of the South has been passed around many times. At this point, it's him. He is to the South what P. Diddy at the time is to the North, basically. That's what we're dealing with. So it's a big gig.
He's a huge star.
He's a huge star.
He's one of the top-selling musicians in America at this point. He plays basketball. He's had tryouts in the NBA. He's had some success acting. Huge star. Good gift for WCW.
If you get him in the ring, it's a huge deal. Yeah. Here's the problem. Yeah. You don't, though.
Yeah.
So you're paying money, a shitload of money, just to get him to rub his brand off on your product. And the problem is that Master P's a big name, but he's not that big a name.
I mean, he's not Mike Tyson now.
Yeah. He's not a household name in every household in America, which is what you would want in order to just pay some guy just to show up twice. That's not great. I mean,
he's a star to young people and especially African Americans, which are 2 groups WCW should be trying to grow their audience with. The young people are who they've lost. That's who grew their audience. 18 to 24 was their big boom when they got hot, and that's who's deserted them for the WWF now. So that's who they're trying to get back. So I get this. I see it.
Yeah. And They put together a stable called the No Limit Soldiers.
What a bunch of assholes.
Yeah, No Limit is Masterpiece whole deal. If this had just been like Conan and Booker T as like a team, that kicks ass. Go for it. Even though like Stevie Ray in there, if you must include Rey Mysterio, do that. Here's the problem. Who are the No Limit Soldiers, Steve?
Well, you got Conan, who is awesome. Conan is hot here.
Conan kicks total ass.
Yeah, one of the few like good things going in this company right now is Conan.
Yes,
and they don't push him nearly enough.
Like, he's who this was built for.
You could sell me on Conan as a main eventer at this point.
Conan definitely should be. Like,
and try to expand into Mexico.
In terms of guys that you just have sitting around who
Mexican
you could put in the main event.
On its ass at this point.
Yeah. Like, literally, once Conan leaves WCW, he goes and founds, like, he goes back, makes AAA a thing again, and, like, AAA basically conquers Mexico again. Like, he had... Conan is the keys to that kingdom.
Unmasked Rey Mysterio, who looks 12 years old.
Like, Rey Mysterio is super lame, you guys.
Oh, and he sucks.
And I don't mean that Rey Mysterio is super lame. I mean that Oscar Gutierrez is super lame, okay? Yeah. Like, this man can't pull off cool to save his goddamn life. He's just, like, kind of a nerd. Like, you just get that sense to him.
He's got, like, a 12-year-old's haircut. Like,
he looks like Conan's little brother. Yeah, it's like, terrible.
Conan's lame little brother who his mom made come with him to go hang out with his friends.
It's not the right fit for this at all.
And then they've got Big Swole, who is just a big, well-built African-American gentleman who seems like he has some potential.
You mean the very same Big Swole who was trained by Brad Rygans and wrestled in New Japan against Shinya Hashimoto in the early 90s? Because, yeah, it's the same fucking guy. He had 3 matches. 3. Yeah. He wrestled 1 match for the AWA, 2 for New Japan, and did not wrestle again until this match we're talking about right now, like 6 years later.
What were the odds that, like, among Master P's group of friends was a professional wrestler?
Like, I guess he was probably just some bouncer that he happened to know. That's probably, what I have to assume.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a bodyguard.
So then we've got 4x4.
Swole got caught, if I remember. I think he got caught going through an airport with a gun or something stupid like that and got fired.
That sounds right. Do you think they were going to push Swole? Like, do you think that was the plan?
I guess, because what else are you going to get out of Master P?
I guess.
Again, they've got Booker T. Just push Booker T.
Yeah.
You have one of the great African-American wrestlers of all time. His name is Booker T. He's on your roster.
He's right over there.
And he's not on this show. They put him back with Stevie Ray at this point. They brought back Harlem Heat for no reason.
At least just, if you're going to do Harlem Heat, put him in this. Why not?
Fair
like,
point.
Fuck. You've only got like 2 black people in the whole company.
Yeah, they've got a massive fat dude they call 4x4 because he's the size of one.
But like...
they practically roll to the ring.
Yeah, here's the thing. There have been a lot of fat wrestlers, and there have been a lot of jacked wrestlers. I don't think I've ever seen a wrestler that was this jacked and fat that they were like a walking refrigerator. Like, he makes Refrigerator Perry look like a mini fridge.
He just hangs out on the floor. And then who was the big white dude?
His name was Chase Tatum. He was a jobber. He was the Mr. Georgia bodybuilding competition winner. And that's all Wikipedia has on him.
Okay. And then the 4th guy in the match on their team is Brad Armstrong.
I want
Road Dogg's brother, son of Bullet Bob Armstrong, is in a hip-hop group for some reason. They just call him B.A., which I think is some kind of riff on Billy Gunn because he's Road Dogg's brother.
Yeah, here's the thing. Had he already started doing his, like, buzzkill gimmick where he basically just did Road Dogg's gimmick?
I think that's when Russo comes in.
Yeah, it is. Okay. So yeah, he's only in this stable because his brother might fit in this stable. That makes
They can't have him. And his brother's a shitty rapper who will later rap with R-Truth.
everything about this screams FBI agent trying to infiltrate this gang.
Dark.
He is the narkiest narc who ever walked the face of the fucking earth. And he, like, in this match, is, like, doing, like, little suck it things. He's, like, trying to have some attitude. It's like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Go
His
away.
finisher should be called the wiretap.
It's so embarrassing. Him and Mysterio together, just like, who assembled this motley crew of dickheads? Also, of the people in this stable, 1, 2, 3 of these people have had less than 5 professional wrestling matches. That's not great. That's not good.
So the West Texas Rednecks are supposed to be the heels, but they got really over because they did a novelty country song called Rap is Crap that, because Jimmy Hart wrote it, was incredibly catchy.
Yeah, here's the problem, is that Jimmy Hart cannot produce a song that is not an earworm. So even though, and let me be totally clear about this is a white supremacist anthem.
Yeah.
Okay? It just is.
Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, rap's not my thing, I don't really like it. Like, country music isn't really my thing, I don't really like it, I don't really listen to it. I would not try to discredit it as an art form and claim it's not music.
Let me tell you the lyrics to Rap is Crap.
Oh,
okay?
man.
I like country music, I like country girls, I like Willie Nelson, and don't forget about Pearl.
Sure.
There's only one thing that I hate, and it's a bunch of crap.
Oh, what's that? This took a turn.
I hate rap. Rap is crap.
Rap is crap. Yeah,
like there's literally only like 3 lines to the whole song.
They sing that over and over. They actually recorded this, and like it got some play on country stations.
It still gets play on country stations. I've lived in the South, Steve.
Yeah, only one of us has.
Like, literally, it would be like every once in a while, it'd be like, oh, hey, well, we're putting out the request line, and oh, hey, it looks like we got 155 requests for Rap is Crap. Cool.
So, yeah, if you can believe this, in a feud between white rednecks who hate rap and a group of black and Hispanic rappers, the white guys are the ones who got over in front of the Southern pro wrestling audience.
Here's the problem, guys, is that if your idea was to bring in Master P in order to reach out to black youths and expand your audience, do you know what's a bad idea? Is to put white supremacists against them in an environment that will get them cheered.
And have the racists be the baby faces.
Gosh, I can't wait to turn on this fucking Klan rally and watch it for fun.
So for some ungodly reason, this is Elimination Rules.
Sure.
You have to sit through a fucking Survivor Series match between these teams.
And again, we literally just established that they don't have that much talent. Not that there's a lot of talent in this particular group, don't get me wrong, but like, really? You got a fucking 4-on-4 Survivor Series style match going on here?
They stretched this out a little. It's 16 minutes, which both feels too short and too long. Like, that's short for an elimination match and for an 8-man match on a card this thin. But oh my god, watching these 8 guys wrestle for 16 minutes.
The best part is that it feels like a normal style, like 30-minute Survivor Series match until about halfway through where they're like, well, let's just go.
Oh shit, we got to get everybody out of here. We're running behind.
And they just eliminate everybody in like 2 minutes.
Okay, so let's do a quick Q Scouts here. The No Limit Soldiers. Conan rules. Dripping charisma. He does a pre-match promo. The crowd is doing all his catchphrases for him. He gets in a line about the heels tossing each other's salads that I can't believe got past standards and practices. But it sounds like how The Godfather would always make weed references that Vince didn't get.
My favorite thing about Conan,
and like fatty, what's that? A big woman?
the thing that makes Conan completely unique is that, like, most people with catchphrases would, like, put emphasis on the catchphrase. So The Rock would be like, it doesn't matter what you think, and that would be, like, the whole point. Conan just rolls out and is like, yo, 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 Arriva La Raza, give me a howdy, yeah, blah, 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 toss some salads, blah, 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 blah. And the whole time he's just rattling this shit off, this 5-minute monologue, the crowd is saying every fucking word with him. Like, this is not a little bit. This is not just a couple sentences. The crowd knows his whole spiel by heart. Push this man.
Yeah. Rey Mysterio, just horribly miscast, I'd say.
Like, if he still had his mask on, he could be like, you could still be using him for 20 minutes at the start of every show.
Yeah. That would be much better than this. Swole? I don't know. Nice
Swole
physique.
Swole has a nice physique and he's very tall. And like he in this match, like if we're doing like a Q Scouts, he exhibits almost no knowledge of basic professional wrestling maneuvers. So I can't say we're going to give him a good grade. And he's already around like 40 at the time.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So like, not a great grade for him.
Brad Armstrong, solid worker, zero charisma.
Brad Armstrong in this role is offensive to my eyes.
The real reason I wanted to do this, I wanted to get to who I think they should have pushed in this thing. Bobby Duncombe Jr. looks like a fucking stud.
Yeah, here's the thing. Kendall Windham sucks. Always sucked.
Barry Windham, so bad here.
Barry Windham looks like everybody's dad.
He's wrestling in like camo shorts and a t-shirt that you can still see his beer gut spilling out of. He's going bald, and he's got the world's largest knee brace on. He's got like a bionic knee.
Barry Windham is only 39 at the time of this match.
He's been in prison, though. Like, he was never the same after he got out of the joint.
That's true. It's just, it's bad times for Barry Windham, okay? It's
rough. He looks 50.
Yeah, it's not good.
But yeah, Duncombe looks like the star to me.
And like Bobby Duncombe Jr. has been around for a while, and he's just kind of been there. And let's be very clear, he looks great. Yeah. Like, push this motherfucker. Like, he doesn't even need to be part of this. Like, he looks like their version of, like, he looks like a handsome JBL.
Yeah. And Hennig is broken down. Like, he's, you know, he's still good, but, like, he's a shell of what he used to be because of the injuries.
It's so ironic that this is where his career is. Because if you had told me at the beginning of his career that, like, he would wind up, like, singing a white supremacist fake country song, and that would be, like, his last hurrah, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But to give him credit, he tries his ass off with all of this. He's the only person in this whole situation who seems like they know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. Duncombe is, of course, the first guy out.
Also, unfortunately, Duncombe dies this following year, so
that's unfortunate.
Rest in peace, Bobby Duncombe Jr.
May also be why they didn't push him, because I assume he had a drug problem.
Yeah. But he was only 33 at this time. 33!
Armstrong gets pinned with a perfect plex. Conan gets Kendall Windham with a DDT and pins him. The big white guy picks up Barry Windham and carries him away.
And then Conan just kind of follows them?
Yeah.
Like, so, Conan doesn't need to. He just does.
Conan gets counted out here, too. So does Barry Windham. This should have been a disqualification because what's-his-name is preventing Windham from re-entering the ring. That's outside interference.
But instead, yeah, they just leave. And so Shivani, in one of his classic I don't give a fuck Shivani moments, just like, oh, Conan got counted out too, huh?
Oh.
Well, that's not great strategy. All right, well, we're 2-on-1.
So it's down to Ray and Swole against Hennig, and Ray pins Hennig with a splash off Swole's shoulders. This was not great. Not great, Bob.
And again, the way this is promoted, they make the Kurt Hennig look like the babyface. It doesn't look like he's getting his comeuppance. It looks like he's being bullied by 2-on-1 odds. It's just a disaster. Like, this is so stupid. You're getting nothing out of this. If pushing Swole to the moon was your plan, that shit wasn't going to work.
Swole didn't exactly shine in this match.
Conan's not any more over coming out of this than he was going into it. Yeah. The only thing it does is it gives Curt Hennig's lifeline just a little bit extra time. Everyone involved in this is worse off at the end, except for Master P, who walks away with a lot of money.
And somehow things are about to get worse, because right after this, we've got the Junkyard Invitational.
Steve, what's a Junkyard Invitational?
Well, a group of jobbers congregate in a junkyard.
As you do.
They fight in like a ring of crushed cars. They have to... You win by escaping the junkyard. You have to climb over the fence and out of the junkyard to win.
Now, when it was first explained, I thought that they were trying to say that you win by climbing over the ring of cars. Because I was trying to figure out why anyone was trying to climb over the ring of cars.
Could have just walked around them. They don't go forever.
It's just a fence on the other side. You can just walk right over there. And indeed... Only twice in this entire match does anyone even try to win the match.
Participants: Cyclope, Fit Finlay, Jerry Flynn, Johnny Grunge, Hack, who is the Sandman, Horace Hogan, Brian Knobbs, Hugh Morris, La Parka, Steven Regal, Rocco Rock, Silver King, David Taylor, and Mikey Whipwreck. Out of this crew of guys, who would you be trying to push?
I would be trying to push them all onto the unemployment line.
Yeah.
I mean,
instead of spending $100,000 on this match.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that yet. They spent at least $100,000 on this. Like, there's a helicopter. That's the Meltzer
estimate. Bischoff denies it, but like, holy shit, there's a helicopter.
Like, the set design itself must have been shitloads of money. Like, they basically take over a real active junkyard and use like the Crusher. Like, they have explosions and pyro and loose fires and like.
I mean, they saved money on lighting because you can't see shit.
That's the thing, too, is that they spend all this money and you have no idea what the fuck is going on.
You couldn't buy any fucking lights.
But, like, if you were going to do a set piece like this, shouldn't it be for, like, the main event? Shouldn't this be, like, Sid versus Seven Nash in a junkyard brawl?
I mean, it should be something real instead of something you barely promoted.
Like, this is one of those famous Bischoff things where he comes up with the idea and spends all this money on it and then, like, tries to fill in, like, the reason for it later.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we're going to do a Junkyard Invitational. It's going to be this sick match in a junkyard. Who's going to wrestle in it? I don't fucking know. A bunch of dudes.
I feel like I need to confess why I actually enjoyed this match.
Yeah, Steve, take us back to your childhood.
So, again, like, we already went back to, a Friday night with Celebrity Deathmatch and... Surge and a Domino's Pizza and some GoldenEye 007. But something else I passed my time with as a youth was internet wrestling federations. Again, the youths may not understand how this worked, but basically you would have a bunch of people on a forum or just in an email thread, and like everybody would pick wrestlers and somebody would book the matches, and then the guys would write promos for the wrestlers, and generally whoever did the better promos would win the match, right? Does that sound right to you?
Oh, absolutely, yes. There would be like a commissioner who would actually like put the show together and like tell you like how the match actually went and like what moves would be performed and all that stuff.
Yeah. All in good fun. Took ridiculous amounts of time and never lasted long because everyone would quickly lose interest. But I ran many of these in my time, and one of the ideas I had was that we would do a battle royal in a subdivision. And if I remember right, I think it was like the hardcore title was like hidden somewhere in the subdivision, so the wrestlers had to find it. And then whoever found it, you had to escape the neighborhood with the belt. And it very much reminds me of this match. It may have been inspired by this match. I feel like the timeline checks out on that one.
I am so happy in this moment because most of the entire years-long history of the Lawcast, it has mostly just been spent burying me for all of my embarrassing things. And this isn't even all that embarrassing, but I'm still prepared to treasure it.
I should point out I was like 10 or 11 years old at this point, and Eric Bischoff was a grown fucking adult in charge of a multi-million-dollar media company.
And you came up with this idea, but you found a way to not spend $100,000 on.
All it cost was my time.
Oh man, I do actually
Think
love
of all
that
the epic
idea.
spots we did here. People were getting slammed on cars. People were jumping out of trees, getting thrown in pools, getting thrown through windows. Somebody jumped off a house. Like, all kinds of crazy stuff happened here.
And the only thing I really want to add to your match is the idea that like neighborhood people could win.
Yeah.
So like you'd be like carrying the belt and sneaking through the bushes trying to get out of the neighborhood, and some dude would just like walk up and be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, what's that?"
Yeah, and then you run into like the Sandman and he beats the shit out of you with his Singapore cane.
This the Sandman beating the shit out of some like poor suburban dad who just found the title in the bushes.
So this match, hard to recap what happens because
What the fuck happened? I have no idea.
it's shot from a distance. I mean, they got like 5 camera guys running around here, but also they've got a crane cam and a helicopter giving us overhead shots. You can't see anything. The lighting is horrible. I mean, the only big spots I remember, Cyclope did a moonsault off a stack of cars, but the camera barely caught it.
Here's the offensive thing about this too, is all of these spots are on the ground or on cars.
Yeah.
And like, guess what? That's not a safe place to land.
There were a lot of injuries here.
How could
A
there
lot of
not
guys-
be?
Yeah.
Mostly this is just a bunch of stiff assholes throwing like car bumpers at each other, like as a shoot.
Couldn't
It's
you
like-
have at least put a ring in the middle of the junkyard?
That would have made a lot of sense, actually.
And then you can do spots in the ring and also fight outside the ring in the junk. But like, you can at least do bumps and stuff in the ring.
My favorite spot of this match, and the only one that I clearly remember, is Silver King and Horace Hogan are standing there. And Horace Hogan is supposed to throw Silver King up onto the hood of a car and into the window. And Silver King spends at least 30 seconds trying to explain to Horace Hogan what he's supposed to do. And Horace Hogan's just like standing next to him, looking at him while like holding his belt, like, do I throw you over here? Wait, do I throw you over there? Oh, I throw you up here? Okay. And then he kind of like softly throws him. So Silver King has to like run and throw himself through a car windshield. It was funny.
So this is, I believe, the Public Enemy's return to WCW. I don't know when else we're ever going to get to talk about their WWF run. So let's take a moment to do that here.
Didn't go well.
Yeah, they get brought into the WWF. They get enormous amounts of heat on them backstage, which, like, the thing is, almost everybody who came in from WCW did, but I think they carried themselves especially poorly. So they make it the storyline that, like, no one likes them and wants them to be there. And then they put them in a match with Farouk and Bradshaw on an episode of Sunday Night Heat.
Which is tantamount to sabotage. Like, literally, you're marching these boys out there to die.
Yeah, and, like, according to Lure, the Public Enemy, like, aren't cooperative, like, don't want to sell anything, don't want to do any spots. So Farouk and Bradshaw just proceed to kick the shit out of them. Like, just shoot on them, pummel them, and that is the end for the Public Enemy in the WWF.
And the sentiment against them is so strong that when the Dudley Boys come in,
Yeah.
they get tarred with the same brush, and literally they have to have the exact same experience with Farouk and Bradshaw, except they do business, so they get accepted.
That's their test, is, they put them against the APA, make them work with them, and, like, things go fine. And, like,
they
that's
get their
when the
asses
Dudleys
kicked
are
too, but they don't
accepted.
complain about it, so it's fine.
Yeah. There's a special effects spot here as Finley is put in a car and the car gets put in the crusher. Finley escapes, but the car gets smashed. And then did that car explode or did a different car explode?
That was a different car.
Of course, why not? Somebody threw a Molotov cocktail, I guess.
Yep. And the fabulous thing is that through all of this, through this like 10 minutes straight of just guys wandering around throwing shit at each other, one time someone tries to escape, fails, and then 10 minutes later, Finley tries to escape, an explosion happens, everyone gets distracted, and he just escapes. And that's it. That's how the match ends.
Finley climbs out and wins. They don't present it like this, but on Nitro after this, he's named the first WCW Hardcore Champion. He survived this match only to suffer a near career-ending injury shortly after this when I think a broken table punctured his leg and caused nerve damage and he almost bled to death.
And he thought he would never work again, but funnily enough, 10 years later.
Yeah. Years later, when he's pushing 50, he gets brought back by WWE and has probably the best run of his career.
Yeah, tears the house down for
at least
2 years straight.
The best American run of his career.
Yeah, he spent 20 years in Europe as the greatest heel wrestler of all time. So,
yeah. Look, I'm a huge fan of Fit Finley, but that's not who should be your first hardcore champion.
No, not if you're trying to do anything with it. I don't even know why they came up with the idea of doing a hardcore title.
Because the WWF had one.
Yeah, that's true, but they had the
WWF hardcore title sucked too.
But the thing is, at least they had a ton of ECW guys, and that kind of made that work a little.
I think Raven's gone at this point because I think they've offered. Bischoff's done the speech where he's like, anybody who wants out of here can leave right now, and Raven stands up and is like, hey, I want to leave.
Yeah, if you're ever a boss in a workplace, don't ever do that. Don't feel like, hey, anybody who wants to just bounce can bounce. Someone will take you up on that.
Next up, for the WCW World Tag Titles, we've got the Jersey Triad against Chris Benoit and Saturn. The Triad are DDP, Canyon, and Bam Bam Bigelow, who are all, in fact, from New Jersey. And, I don't know, pretty cool stable. Kind of modern Freebirds here.
Actually, I really love this a little bit because DDP got Bam Bam into the business. Bam Bam was actually a bouncer at DDP's bar before either one of them was in the business.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's actually fantastic. DDP mentions that in his shoot interview. That's how he met Bam Bam, was he was just a bouncer when he was 18.
Yeah.
Bam Bam was a bouncer
Bam Bam
at the bar.
broke in really young. Bam Bam was 18 when he broke in.
Yeah, so they were both obsessed with wrestling, and that's how Bam Bam got his start. And so literally that's how that happens. I think DDP even helped Bam Bam get into WWF, and that's why he started with WWF right off the bat. So, and Canyon is DDP's personal project.
Did the Samoans train him, or did Johnny Rods?
Let's go over to his Wikipedia.
But yeah,
Larry Sharp.
Larry Sharp. Okay. So, you've got, DDP is your Michael Hayes, Canyon is your buddy Jack Roberts, and Bam Bam is Bam Bam. He's the Terry Gordy of the group.
And the fabulous thing is that even the Freebirds didn't do this. And I love this idea that they could change who was in the match during the match.
Yeah. Because they're Flair's stooges, they're allowed to defend the tag titles in handicap matches.
Yes. But only two people can be legally part of the match at any given time. So they have to tag out to the guy on the floor for him to enter the match.
I feel like they didn't observe that here. This just felt like it was on the apron.
No, this is a straight handicap match.
So yeah, Benoit and Saturn have joined together as part of the youth movement. They got beat up by the Triad in a great segment that I always remember this for some reason, where Page threw Benoit a chair and he caught it, and then Page punched it into his face.
Just pie-faced him right into the chair. It was great.
It's a really unathletic version of the Van Daminator.
But like that's exactly how you would use a chair in like a real fight. Is it just be like, man, just punch that shit into his fucking face?
They announced that it's Page and Bigelow competing, but Canyon is also in the match, so it's 3-on-2. Benoit and Saturn have generic music, but they look awesome coming out together.
They look like badasses.
Yeah.
In terms of who should be getting pushed at this point, I don't really think there's a ton of debate that like these guys they're right. They're like the only guys who are ready to take that next step.
Yeah. Neither is the greatest talker, but I think their work is so good they're just fine. Like they both got over through their work.
And Benoit is, and I hate giving Chris Benoit compliments. Like most of our podcast is just for some reason this keeps coming up and up again. But at this point,
He's a really great wrestler.
And he's over. Like the fans love him. Like he's just been so good for so long. People want to see him.
Yeah. Too bad he stole the Booker's wife.
Now, when exactly is it that he's going to bounce after winning the world title?
It's at the very beginning of 2000.
So in about 6 months?
Yeah, it's after they fire Russo and put Sullivan back in charge.
So they do decide to push him. It's just,
Yeah, Russo liked him. Russo pushed him too.
Yeah. The funny thing is, if they had just had Jericho when Russo comes in, if they just
they've let Jericho walk. Jericho's going to debut with the WWF in a few weeks.
And like if he was just still around, like isn't that Russo's like baby?
Yeah.
Like the whole company gets built around him.
That is exactly who Russo would have built everything around. Would have been a better option than Jeff Jarrett. Never forget.
Jeff Jarrett. Wow.
Long match here, 23 minutes, but again, you've got good wrestlers in there. You got to fill some time here.
Yeah, this is good. This is a really good match. Like I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Benoit gets worked over, but he manages to German suplex Bigelow.
And like Bigelow's not himself anymore. He's busted up. He's broken down. It's a shame. Like his ECW run was really his last real run.
That turns out like a 400-pound man doing a moonsault is not a good idea.
Yeah, so he's not as agile as he once was, but still, it's cool to see him get up for stuff like that.
Benoit tries to do rolling Germans, but Bigelow kind of turns it around and just flops on him when he does the second one.
Yep.
Bigelow goes for the moonsault, but Benoit moves. Hot tag to Saturn. Saturn's throwing suplexes, super kicks. He does a Cactus Jack clothesline on both Canyon and Page, and all three of them go out to the floor. Benoit and Saturn double team Bigelow. They hit a simultaneous splash and diving headbutt. Page breaks up the pin with an elbow drop, but like neither Bigelow or Benoit were the legal men anyway.
Yep.
This match has a bad case of legal man syndrome at the end. It's like an AEW tag match. It was just ahead of its time.
Basically, yeah.
Northern Lights suplex on Page for 2. Canyon tries to throw powder in Saturn's eyes, but he misses and hits Page. Page is blinded, so he hits Canyon with the diamond cutter, thinking it's Benoit.
I kind of love that.
Yeah. I don't know if we've talked much about Canyon. I loved Canyon.
Canyon had so much potential.
Yeah. He's like in his mid-20s here, I think. He's a young guy.
I mean, he's already been Mortis and like done that whole shit.
Yeah. Great wrestler, great athlete, ton of charisma, great promo.
He's big. There just aren't that many of these new guys who are like have some height to him.
Yeah, he's like 6'3". He's sneaky tall.
If he stood in there with Hogan, he wouldn't look ridiculous. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just, oh, man. And he had a catchphrase, who better than Canyon?
Who's not better than Canyon? Everybody! I tricked you! Does he start doing? When does Positively Canyon happen? Right at that's the next. That's a year later. That's in 2000, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, when he starts diamond cutting everybody.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, just never worked out, and unfortunately died under pretty tragic circumstances.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys who unfortunately had a lot of personal demons related to being closeted in an industry that didn't like gay people very much. So they really cursed him. And it's unfortunate because he probably really could have been one of that next generation of guys.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as when we're looking around the roster for guys to push, he's on this list too. I mean, we've definitely found enough guys tonight who it feels like they should be doing something with, and they're just not.
Yeah.
Bigelow puts Page's foot on the ropes to break up the pin. Page comes in with like a filing cabinet. What the hell was this? A toolbox?
I have no idea what the fuck this thing is.
Something huge and metal, and he blasts both Benoit and Saturn with it. And then him and Bigelow do like basically the 3D on Saturn.
Yeah, basically just was the 3D.
Yeah. And that gets the pin, and the Triad retain.
It's a good match. It's not a great match, but for this show, I'll fucking take it. It's the last good thing we're going to see for the rest of the night.
Next up, we've got our boxing match. I accidentally wrote in my notes that it's Roddy Piper versus Bam Bam Bigelow. I actually would have loved to see that.
Dude, that would have been sick. Hey, did you know that Bam Bam Bigelow actually had an MMA match?
No. How did that go?
Well, he lost in the first round, but it's because he was paid $100,000 to lose the fight and said, and I quote, "I don't give a fuck about real or fake. Give me that money."
Was this some Inoki bullshit?
No. This was New Japan, but it wasn't Inoki.
Oh. But, yeah, I mean, it had to be some Japanese bullshit. Like...
Yeah, he lost to
nobody
Leopoldo.
Like, nobody in America is stupid enough to, like, pay pro wrestlers to lose worked MMA fights. Like, just that phenomenon has not really occurred here.
But yeah, he fought the guy who was the first man ever to beat Royce Gracie in UFC. It's a small world.
Yeah. Did that make the guy who beat him, like, was he challenging for, like, the lineal UFC title at that point then?
I'm not really. This is UFC 3, so I'm not even sure there was a UFC title at that point.
Trying to remember if Floyd Mayweather is still the lineal Brawl for All champion.
Oh my god, I think he is.
McGregor. I can't remember who McGregor beat, but it somehow migrated. But because Butterbean is such a freak show, like Butterbean lost to somebody who did MMA. Bob Sapp may have been in there at some point.
Holy shit. We need to track that. I need to know. I need to know what the history of the Brawl for All.
Do the Brawl for All the Brawl for All episode we've been talking about forever.
Oh, sweet Jesus. Patreon was built for such things.
So instead, regrettably, this boxing match is Roddy Piper versus Buff Bagwell. Buff Bagwell is a babyface. Nope.
There's no worse babyface that could possibly exist than Buff the Stuff Bagwell.
He's got his mom. They bring out Judy Bagwell with him.
I will never understand bringing his mom to stuff basically buries and ruins his whole career.
It becomes a real thing that, like, they basically fired him from the WWF because he missed a show because he was sick, and he had his mom call Jim Ross to let JR know that Buff wasn't going to make it instead of just calling himself.
And that's not how you do it.
Like 30-something-year-old man at that point, and his mom is calling in sick for him.
And, like, his mom is out here. Buff Bagwell's gimmick is basically that he's a male stripper. When I say basically, that's because he is a male stripper, and that's what his career was when he broke into wrestling anyway. And, like, to have his mom be in his... Yeah, to have his mom be in his corner, there's something very weird about that, man.
Yeah.
And especially now, he will never shake off the dust of being the reason that WCW never became its own brand.
Destroyed the invasion.
Single Handedly.
Had the shittiest match in history.
He almost tanked Booker T's whole career.
So, like we mentioned, Judge Mills Lane is the referee. They have Buffer do the introductions here.
Which, like, I know that they have Buffer on retainer for every pay-per-view. So you got to have him do a match, and, like, the main event here really isn't good for that.
He did the main event, too.
Okay. But, like, come on, man. Really? Why are you wasting Buffer on this shit?
Have you ever seen a good, like, wrestling boxing match? Has that ever happened?
No. It can't happen.
No.
Boxing doesn't mesh well with anything but boxing. Why would it? It's its own thing.
Piper, as wrestlers go, is a pretty good boxer.
Yes, like, he's a credible boxer.
Yeah. I mean, whooped Mr. T's ass in that worked boxing match at WrestleMania 2.
Like, and I understand it being his thing. You know, I get it.
Yeah, he was an amateur boxer. Like, kind of fun. I mean, this would have been a fun thing for a Nitro.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is for. The idea that I'm supposed to take this seriously.
This whole show was a Nitro.
You're right. Like, what the fuck is the point of anything on this show, really?
Nothing
including
on
the
this
main
show
event.
Feels like pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So yeah, they do first round. Piper headbutts Bagwell. In between rounds, Flair sprays like alcohol or something on Piper's gloves, which, you know, stings Bagwell's eyes and blinds him. Great job, ref.
Not doing an awesome job, buddy.
Yeah, even Mills Lane got buried. Piper dominates the second round because Bagwell can't see. Although then Bagwell makes a comeback and knocks Piper down at the end of the second round.
Yep.
Judy Bagwell bites Piper's ear. She dumps a bucket of water on his head. Bagwell punches Flair, then hits the blockbuster on Piper. His, you know, thing where he jumps off the second rope and does a front flip into a neck breaker. That is an awesome finisher. I do love that.
It is an awesome finisher, and he's like, he's definitely the only person in the industry doing a move even like that at the time. So that's pretty cool. But man, like,
and then he pins him, and for some reason, like, the boxing match ends with a pinfall.
Of course it does. That's how boxing matches end, right? Like, we don't do a boxing podcast, so I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
Yeah, we'll have to consult the, like, Earth 2 versions of us that do a boxing podcast.
That podcast sounds sick.
Yeah. We would just do Hearns versus Hagler every single week.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, all right. It's main event time. It's the match the world has come to see.
Have they?
No, they haven't. No, they have not. Again, this would be like a decent Nitro main event. It's Kevin Nash and Sting against Randy Savage and Sid Vicious.
And again, just to reiterate from off the top of the show, whoever gets the pin in this match becomes the world champion. That includes if Sting pins his own partner. That is the rules of this match.
Or if Sting pins one of Nash or one of Sid or Savage, I think.
I think so, yeah.
What the fuck?
So it's if anybody pins anybody, they become... So, like, if Savage pins Sid, he becomes world champion?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe. Look, this needed a rules card before the match.
Because I can tell you for goddamn sure that my confusion mostly comes from the fact that Tony Schiavone does not give a shit about explaining it.
I'm sure he didn't know.
Yeah, I'm sure he didn't. He just like, well, yeah, let's just see what happens.
I I dug Savage and Sid's entrance. Like the lights go out, the flashing lights, pretty good music. Like they look cool coming out together with all the women behind them.
Hey, you know what's awesome?
Sid?
Sid is so goddamn awesome. I can't get over it. I know that you guys knew that we were going to say that the second you heard that Sid was going to be on this show, and I try not to be a stereotype, but he just looks so much cooler than like everything we've seen on the show up to this point.
Sting makes his way out, and then Nash. Gorgeous George is over in Nash's corner because Savage has mistreated her lately. Savage goes to yell at her, and Sting attacks him. Savage manages to turn the tide with the help of Medusa and Miss Madness. Sting gets worked over for a little while. Hot tag to Nash. He gets in some shots on Savage. And then he tags Sting back in, which is inexplicable that he would do that.
Like, it's not even like, oh, hey, fucker, get back in there and get your ass beat some more. No. It's just, that's how they chose to wrestle this match.
No psychology here.
None.
Wouldn't it have been kind of interesting if, like, Sting had hit, like, a finishing move and covered and Nash had to break the pin up?
Yes. That's
that
exactly
would have made
how
sense
this
for
match
that
should
would
have
be how
happened.
that's how they should have lost. Is like they can't actually work together because they're both trying to win the belt. I don't know. I guess maybe Sid not supposed to care about winning the belt?
I don't know. But that literally, I don't understand the point of doing a match like this if that's not the point of it.
Yeah.
Like that would seemingly be the only reason you would even do this.
Sting hits Sid with a clothesline, and then like Pratt falls to headbutt him in the junk.
Nice.
Nash and Savage tags in. Nash takes out both Savage and Sid. Sting comes in. He hits Stinger splashes first on Sid and Savage, and then Nash, and then Medusa and Miss Madness.
Yep.
Again, a lot of beating up women on this show for a company that's not supposed to do that.
It's literally all this show is, to be honest with you.
Nash sets Savage up for the jackknife. Gorgeous George comes in and is supposed to low blow him and like can't figure out how to do it.
That's so depressing. Just like this long drawn out moment where she's like, we didn't go over this.
Like kind of punches him in the butthole. Like,
sorry, I'm just delighted by you saying those words out loud right now.
She kind of ass punches him.
Yep, right in the butthole.
He goes down, but he's not in the right position to take the elbow drop, I guess. So like Savage tells him to move, and then Sid comes in and slams him, but he's still not set up the right way, so he moves again. And that's the problem for Nash is like he has to be like lying with like his head facing the corner, or his legs are going to touch the ropes from anywhere in the tiny WCW ring.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I'm not sure everybody always remembers, but
that ring is so much smaller than the WWF ring.
I think it's 10 by 10, and literally Kevin Nash is probably 6'10", so he can genuinely touch the ropes basically from anywhere, just by stretching out. It's ridiculous.
Savage hits the elbow drop, gets the pin, and wins the title. Like, no reaction at all. Like, this main event fell totally flat.
I mean, of course it did. The rules don't make any sense. The stakes don't make any sense. The teams are weird, and they have no reason to be teaming together. Like, it's not good. Why would you expect any more? It's terrible. It's a terrible end to a terrible night.
Savage will hold the belt for a whopping 24 hours. He will come out the next night on Nitro and say he's putting out an open challenge for anyone other than Nash. And Hogan comes out and challenges him. This is Hogan's first appearance in months since Spring Stampede. Hogan challenges him. A bunch of people interfere in the main event, and Hogan gets the pin and wins the title for the, 12th time or some shit like that.
Hey, if you had Hulk Hogan buries Randy Savage on your card, go ahead and stand
Yeah,
up and get your prize.
yeah. So yeah, that brings us to the end of just an abysmal pay-per-view.
This show was a disaster. It was every bit as bad as you might have been afraid that it would be, but it was even worse than that because every subsequent pay-per-view they've done since the beginning of the year has just proved all they do is bury whatever it is that they have left, minute by minute, second by second. It's so awful.
It feels like they've just gotten progressively worse.
It does. Like, what are you supposed to feel optimistic about coming out of this? Anything?
No, and they just put the belt back on Hogan because that's their safety net.
But it ain't safe no more.
No, they know Hogan will always draw, but he can't anymore.
And in a world where Hogan doesn't draw, what do you do?
No, they got nothing left. Like I mean, the big ace they've got is the Hogan face turn and the return of the red and yellow.
And that's
neither
coming.
of those moves the needle.
And that's when a change has to be made. Because, like, once you've done it, man, there ain't nothing left to do.
So, yeah, I mean, watching this, you understand how this company lost its ass. Like, why was anyone watching this at this point? I really wasn't anymore. I had given up.
I just can't imagine what possibly could have been good to anyone about this. Like, how could you feel good about watching this show?
I mean,
Like,
there were some guys I liked, Benoit, Mysterio, and Malenko, and Canyon, and DDP, but like none of those are featured players at this point.
no. It's just sad. It's sad what it's become. And if you were like a diehard fan, I mean, I hope that you got off the bus before it went to shit because it's such a there's got so much further even to fall. Further than you ever would have imagined.
Yeah, it's bad. It's an incredible fall, and somehow things are way worse a year after this.
And then a year after that,
There is no more WCW.
it's toast.
A year after that, they're, the Jabroni stable invading the WWF.
Sheesh.
So, yeah. That is it for Bash at the Beach. We have now done almost every Bash at the Beach.
Man, what a completionist thing.
Yeah.
We kind of, to take it backstage for a second, we kind of did this just because we realized kind of like, oh yeah, we never finished doing Bash at the Beach.
Yeah.
We got all the way up to here.
We still haven't done the one that was actually at a beach.
Damn, how have we managed not to do the beach one?
Yeah. It does very much feel like this show is this was the show where you really see like the rise and fall of WCW from the very first one, which is Hogan's debut and the biggest pay-per-view they've ever done, to 1996, where Hogan turns heel and joins the NWO, to 1997, where Dennis Rodman wrestles for the first time, and then 98, where they do one of their biggest pay-per-views with Rodman and Malone, and Goldberg's just won the title. And then by this point, it's fallen apart. And then 2000 is where the Russo double crosses Hogan, and it's truly over at that point. Like, by then, it just feels inevitable that they're going to go out of business.
For better or for worse, this is the only Bash at the Beach that really doesn't feel noteworthy in any way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's an impressive run of at least having noteworthy shows. It kind of becomes... Bash at the Beach kind of was during their peak era what Starrcade was meant to be. Bash at the Beach was the show. It always had the biggest star. It always had the biggest match. The middle of the summer became WCW's time. It's... So to see it come to this so soon after it was so great, it's depressing.
Yeah. So that's a wrap. And yes, that was rather depressing. Next week, we're going to have something else rather depressing. It's going to be SummerSlam 1995. coming from the absolute worst time ever in the WWF before the year 2020, I'd say.
What are we doing with our lives, Steve?
Why are we putting ourselves through this?
Why is this the summer of suck? Why do I need to officially brand it the summer of suck?
It's amazing how many bad shows we've done this summer.
It's nuts. It's not intentional.
No.
We keep just like going through the entire history of pro wrestling being like, well, we got to cover this, we got to cover this. And like 11 shows in a row have just been trashed from a butt. Anyway, but this one is special trash because it's the King Mabel show.
Yeah, this is where they decide that Mabel's their guy to push into the main event. And, it's not great.
They go with a bit of a youth movement on this whole show, actually. We're going to get huge pushes for Kama, Isaac Yankem, Bertha Faye, Skip, Barry Horowitz.
Yeah, but really this is what you remember from this is that this is Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon in the second ladder match.
Yes, and that is the beautiful, pure art that will save our souls.
Yeah. So, here we are. Next time, SummerSlam 1995. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again next week.